Politics and current affairs issues may sound casual when it's discussed by the wrong persons in the wrong circle. But with Dimeji Daniels, the discussion can only get more interesting. The analysis, the interviews, the findings, the details, the actions, the argument, the hot seat. Only on one show, The Roundtable. Join Dimeji Daniels on Adaba 88.9 FM every Mondays between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. as he tackles matters arising in the news and political space with his prolific guests discussing issues of politics and current affairs. The Roundtable with Dimeji Daniels. Let the conversation begin.
Good afternoon and welcome to today's edition of The Roundtable. My name is Dimeji Daniels, and this afternoon I'm being joined by one of the people contesting the October 10 governorship election in Ondo State, and he is the candidate of YPP, Mr. Dotun Ojon. You're welcome on the program.
Good afternoon. It's good to be here, sir.
Let's start by talking about your party. The YPP is a party that preaches social democracy. That is a system that supports economic and political democracy through representative democracy, provision of what's called social welfare provisions for the people. If you ask some politicians in Nigeria, they already call themselves social democrats. You find them in PDP, you find them in APC, the two biggest political parties in Nigeria. Is your party saying that Nigeria has not attained that social democracy?
Yeah, perhaps I should begin by telling you that one of the reasons why we have our party as Young Progressives Party is not just because we want young people to gather, but because we are looking at old principles and how we can use new generation mindset to actually drive old principles. So the word young there does not only refer to the gathering of young people in terms of age. It also has to do with being 21st century compliant. So what we are bringing on board is not just to change the status quo, it's to use 21st century wisdom, the old principle, to better the lot of the people.
I'm not even talking about whether your party has young in its...
No,
I'm talking about what your party believes in. Your party preaches social democracy.
Of course, that's what I'm saying.
I'm asking whether your party believes that Nigeria has not attained that.
Of course, that's why we came on board 3 years ago. We discovered that at best what we have now is what I call a 19th century social intervention. So, that if we come on board, let's use the new mindset, the 21st century mindset, to drive some of this social intervention. It's not as if we are bringing new social intervention. It's just the old interventions that we have that we felt that we can actually use the 21st century principles to drive.
Okay, now social democracy believes that in the provision of basic needs of people, for instance, shelter and food and all of that. So you're saying the government that we have at the moment, even in Ondo State, has not done that, has not succeeded in doing that.
I'm just going to pick, thank God we never rehearsed this, I'm going to pick housing, for example. Okay. And I'm not just going to limit it to the present administration. I want to, since Ondo State started, let's look at our housing policy. What we've always had is, at best, government will partner with private sector investors and they build housing estate for the commoners. But at the end of the day, the commoners cannot access them. Because at the end of the day, the politicians take through the back door, the professional politicians, I call them, take through the back doors to sell it to themselves, their cronies and friends. I'm going to ask you, how many of Ondo State people today who are supposed to have shelter on their head? As much as we don't have the data, but we can actually close our eyes, count from Ojaoba to where we are now, and count able-bodied people who are supposed to live decently, perhaps in their own homes, that they cannot. So what is the kind of intervention we are bringing in housing, for example? We have gone past the level of wanting to build and want the people to acquire it. Because if you build an accommodation of 3 million, for example, you discover that an average civil servant who earns, let's say, 70 or 80 million to 100,000 naira, you discover that at the end of the day, they cannot even pay for some of these buildings. So if government is building for the masses and at the end of the day, the buildings end up with politicians, what is the essence of that? So what we are going to do, the kind of intervention we are going to bring on board is revolutionary. For example, government does not only build to shelter. You must also build with the mindset of regulating that industry. For example, if we build 2-bedroom flat and we say, okay, if you want to own it, you are a civil servant, for example. Okay, come and be paying per month. Your house rent is 40,000 naira per year, for example. What would that do to the economy? That will also help the economy greatly, because that has served as a standard for house owners in your community. So landlord will not just wake up because the wife just divorced him and say, oh, I'm taking my rent from 50,000 to 100,000. That's the major problem we have. We operate a community without regulation. Yet, if you put Nigerian laws side by side with other places, you discover that we seem to know everything, but the capacity to do what we do know as a government is what is lacking. So that is the new innovation that we are talking about. Either you work with government, either you work with private sector. If we build a house very close to this place now, and government is talking about the movement of the people, the man-hour that is burnt in traffic in Ojaba, for example, and we ask people in Adaba FM, for example, you don't need to live in town, since what are you actually doing there? And we have an estate here. We are not going to deal with you directly as an employee. We are dealing with the organization, and the organization says, oh, 10 of my staff will actually be living here, and directly from your salary they remove as little as 5,000, and you know that within a period of 10, 11 years or 7, depending on your salary, that you are going to own your home and live comfortably. This is the 21st century mindset that we are talking about. It's not just government executing project because they want their names to be on the project, or the color of their political parties to be on the project. Or at the end of the day, how many projects can you count, for example, during Mimiko administration? We were just driving past the motor place there. I was there when they inaugurated it some years back, where the automat. And you discover that fantastic idea that you want every one of them to actually gather there because of one reason or the other. Fantastic. But today, are they still there? Because majority of our project is just to bear our name, to bear the color of our political party. We are not thinking about the next generation. All we are thinking about is putting self at the center of government projects, program, and policies.
Now, in spite of the good intentions of your party, the YPP, some people will say your party is little known. The logo of your party is a door, right? Am I right?
Yes, it's a door.
Your party is little known. How do you, election is fast approaching, October 10. How do you hope to make your party known and acceptable to the people of Ondo State?
Our strategy is a little bit different, and I'm sorry that I'm going to tell you part of it because it's something we hold very dear to us as a party. We do not intend to be popular. That's not our intention. And
if you're not, how do you hope to win it?
Hold on, sir. I say that with all honesty. Today, if you are talking, you can't count 4 political parties without counting our party. Because in the Senate today, we only have 3 political parties. It's PDP, APC.
Your party has 1 senator.
Yes, and YPP. So if you're talking about popularity, in the recess of it, we are driving it. But our strategy in Ondo State is a little bit different. We cannot cope with the uncertainties, and there's one particular word I want to use that is involved with traditional politicking. So what are we doing? We discovered that there are about 300 to 400,000 voters in Ondo State that have never voted. These people have never voted. They have their voters card, but they have never voted. If you do your calculation very carefully, you discover that we have about 1.3 million voters card in the hands of indigenes of Ondo State. But how many people have actually voted in time past to decide who governs them? You discover that they're just somewhere around 500, 600,000. So where are these voters card? And that's what we've done. And we identified that majority of these people have never participated in election in the state. So what did we do? We reached out to them. Because I've not been to your doorstep, you think my party is not popular. But what we have done over time is to identify these people. Fortunately for us, a chunk in the number of these people are students who are schooling elsewhere. During elections, they don't come back home. Okay. But now, because of COVID-19, majority of them are in their houses. So we have also taken advantage of that. Of course, we have also taken advantage of our strength, which is our ability, our youthfulness, to be able to connect with this set of people. So what we did is that, of course, seeing me, you know that in reality, the Electoral Act says that I cannot spend more than 200 million naira to execute election. But in reality, on the day of election last year, the winner of the election, on the day of election, doled out about 5.5, 1.
Don't say that if you don't have your file.
Okay,
Please, let's not speculate.
Perhaps I'm going to do the calculation, and I will leave the people to do the mathematics. The Boko Sebe was a very popular phrase in Ondo State. And each person from where I voted got 5.
Where did you vote?
I voted in my ward, Apoy Ward 1.
Okay.
Unit 1, Apoy Ward 1 in the local government area of Ondo State. And each voter was given 5,000 naira. And at the end of the day, if you calculate 5,000 naira with about 300,000 people who voted, that gives you about 1.5 billion. I just did the mathematics. I didn't mention the name of nobody. So these are the realities that we cannot cope with, because our intention is different and genuine. So what did we do differently? We decided to meet with the people from door to door, campaigning to them. Instead of putting, big posters and big banners, we decided to do small handbill that will rest and stay with the people even until after the election. So for you to think that our party is not popular, I accept that, because that is the perception and the impression we want to create for our political enemies. But on the day of election, it is that day that we realize that we may not be that unpopular.
You just mentioned politicians totally have money on the day of election. In a polity where money seems to play a very big role, are you not concerned or scared that your chances may not be that bright?
I am concerned that the people are actually selling their future. But I'm equally happy that I think I've connected with the people of Ondo State more than I don't want to sound proud, more than majority of the candidate, because it's different from gathering people in a hall and talking to them. I've been able to meet one-on-one with a lot of people, and I discovered that.
And do you get the feeling that they buy into what you're selling, into your message?
Of course, everybody, they may not know the way out, but everybody wants to get out. The thing is that what they are waiting for is somebody who can actually lead them out. They do not know the way out.
And you think you're that person?
Of course I am. Of course I am.
What makes you think so?
Okay, I think I'm the only candidate, apart from the fact that I studied public leadership. Ask them, what exactly are you bringing on board? That's the question. I think, as of the last time I checked, before I started campaigns, before I started talking to people, even at the level of my party, I came up with a LEAP agenda. It's on paper. And I distributed it to the people at that forum, that this is what we want to do. And this is beyond what we want to do. This is how we want to do it. And it is called the LEAP agenda. If you check through the LEAP agenda, it's a summary of what we want to do in 4 years. So we have a clear understanding of where, we may not have a clear understanding of where Ondo State is now, because a lot of our activities that are ordinarily supposed to be on paper, that you just go on Google and check, the government is hiding it, because they do not want the people to know the true reflection. For example, February 2020, the Ondo State government got about 5 billion naira. The Ondo State government, sir, is different from Akure South local government. It's different from Akure North local government. It's different from Akeredolu local government where I come from. And the government says that from this 5 billion naira, they used about 4 billion to pay salary. And they only have about 1 billion to play with infrastructure-wise. I don't have any problem with that. But where's the problem? The problem is that you cannot access the information as to who and who got paid, that the amount of money actually got to the tune of 4 billion naira. These are some of the explanations that the government should make. For example, we got to understand that when state governments are cross-border, it's only a few of them, maybe 2 or 3 of them across the nation, when they tell you that they get the federal allocation and talk about paying salary, that they are actually including the salaries of workers in the local government. Meanwhile, local governments have their own separate allocation. Nobody is talking about it. But because it comes to the state government, they paint the picture that there's no money. So that's why I said that we may not know the true picture and the boss of the government. But as to where we want to take Ondo State to, we have, it's bright in our heart, like like the noonday.
And you think your chances are very bright? You think your chances are very bright? With what you're seeing?
Of course. My chances are
in your
very bright.
engagement with the people, these people you said you're engaging, the students, young people, everybody. Do you get the feeling that they believe in you, that they see you as a serious contender?
Now, when we started, no. When we started out, no. And that's also one of the problems that we need to clean up with this, creating believability in the system. When we started, they said, oh, the first thing, Ibolo tomorrow to Mafishe governor.
Yeah.
Where will he get that kind of money? That's first. Second, he will just do this for perhaps after 1 month, he's going to step down and perhaps merge with another political party. That gave me a tough time. Because that's the mindset of the people. That is coming from their experience, because this is what they've seen people do over the time. So now, I needed to, not to prove, but I needed to clean up that kind of believability system that is faulty. That there's somebody who is coming out, because, see, and my what do I call them, candidates or aspirant then too, didn't help matter. Because majority of them today that you are hearing, I'm telling you, because I believe that I am seeing more than a lot of people now as we speak politically in Ondo State. Majority of them too do not have a future. And they've played into the hand of their followership, who has come to understand that these people at the end of the day will just merge with one political party. They are not going nowhere. So it was a huge challenge for me. But days rolled into months, and I kept talking to the people. Of course, there's no cure to any ailment that is more than keep talking to the people. I kept talking to them. That see, this is a different thing. We are doing things differently. Go and check since the 3 years that YPP started, the Young Progressive Party, sir. We haven't presented any candidate except in one state who stepped down for nobody. Because even in 2019, there was a poll that came out from a ward body, and the poll said that YPP presented the most credible presidential candidate in person of Professor Kingsley Moghalu, and nobody has disputed that. That's the credibility we have built for the party, and that is I'm a product of the party. I consulted for 2 political parties before I joined here. I started this journey in 2006, sir. I consulted for 2 political parties at several levels. The YPP is the only political party which card I have carried, and perhaps till I die, except perhaps till the political party dies. So it was a major challenge, but now we have been able to overcome that challenge, and we're seeing people genuinely come out to say, oh, where have you been since? Where have you been since? My colleague who's my special assistant is in the vehicle now listening. He came out this morning and came back to us and said, oh, we have another credible follower. Because once we have a follower like that, there are followers. You see people who genuinely want to carry the gospel of your party, and the way they come across us like, oh, where have you guys been? It shows that with what I've seen now, that we are going to make credible and clear statement on the day of election by winning the gubernatorial poll.
Now, your party is Young Progressives Party. Now, you said you're engaging students, that you've been engaging students. Now, do you think young people make up more than 70% of the voters register? Do you think that the young people are buying into your campaign?
Of course, yes. The young people are buying into the campaign. The problem of a young man in Nigeria is caused by a young man. And that's why the solution will be provided by a young man. And what is the problem? That's part of those things that I've talked about earlier. In a person you know very well, sir, who by chance we were together in the same sector before I moved out, told me a story of how he wanted to become governor. And said, all I wanted to do was to contest to, maybe they will find me something. And at the end of the day, they didn't find me something. Now, I am broke. And the person called a meeting between us. He wanted to advise me not to spend much. And he said, when I was going, he said, I need to fix the gear of my vehicle. Sir, I got home and I wept. That this is the problem of an average Nigerian youth. So the problem of the youth, The believability is caused by the youth. So somebody has to come up and, sincerely speaking, for the people that we have engaged with, of course, you know that we have many people that we have not also reached out to, because it is exceedingly difficult, but not practically impossible for you to engage everybody on one-on-one basis. And that is what we have done. So, by and large, I think that a chunk of this number is actually buying into what we are doing.
Now, the incumbent, Rotimi Akeredolu, has been in the saddle for more than 3 years.
Yeah.
Would you say he has lived up to expectation?
No.
Why do you say that?
You see, the concept of leadership.
Because if you ask anybody in that government, they will say Akeredolu's done well. He has constructed roads. You talk about the overpass at Torre. You talk about the lean industrial hub. Why do you think that he has not done well?
For a 19th century man, a 20th century achievement is something that they will celebrate like Christmas. Because that's...
So you say what he has done is not enough?
Well, see, in what they call leadership, I was about to talk about it. There are three things that you need to consider before you talk about good leadership. The first one is priority. The second one is people. The third one is their prosperity. I'm going to start from the flyover in Ore that you talked about. If you travel from Lagos and you are coming from Ore, or you are going to Benin City, when you get to Ijebu, you see a flyover bridge there.
Yeah.
And if you take your time, you count the legs. It's about 12. That's about 24. Now somebody started something and said, "Oh, I want to cross over." In the name of politics. In the name of politics, that project was to score a political point. And you crossed.
Is there anything wrong about that?
No, hold on, sir. I'm making a point. And you cross the people. You cross them over, and with four-legged, I call it four-legged something there. And you didn't think that tomorrow there could be an expansion on that road, as busy as that road is. If today we decide to expand that road, that means our over 5 billion naira is going to come down, because there's no room for the future in that project. Now, what has been the argument? The argument is that, people are dying as a result of accident there.
Yes.
But this thing has not solved the problem of accident. I don't know whether you have ever used to.
You're saying people are still dying there?
I don't know whether you have ever used the place, sir.
I've never.
See, the road, because it's just a lane. So once a vehicle parks on that place,
on the bridge,
that is the end. And this is what we see happen every time, because there was a motor park very close to that place. You close down the motor park. You didn't provide an alternative. So everybody now lines up on the road to carry passenger. That is a political bridge. See, some of these things we are saying, people in power know. They know. Second point, the majority of the places in Southern Central District majority of the places have not had light in the last 10 years. In Ijodo, the hometown of the former governor.
Is that the responsibility of the state government to provide electricity?
Hold on, sir. That maybe you want to sound political too. Because
I'm only asking you.
Yes.
I'm only asking you. Is it the responsibility of the state government to provide electricity?
What the state government say every time, and it's not peculiar to Ondo State, is that, this electricity is on the exclusive list of the federal government. Meanwhile, landlord associations buy transformers for their communities.
Yes, they do.
Why are they doing that?
But the problem of Ondo State is beyond transformer. You know that.
I do know that, but I am telling you, I'm making a calculation.
Some of these communities have not had light even before Akeredolu came.
Of course, that's the essence.
Yes.
See, the essence of leadership is to solve problem.
And in
it's so
some
annoying.
of those places, the infrastructure is even down.
It's so annoying. You haven't taken your time to do some of this research.
I did a program for more than 2 quarters.
Now, sir,
on that central.
Now, sir, do you know that if you
with BDC on it,
if you speak to 10 people from Ondo South Central District, for example, 10 people, and you ask them, which do you prefer? For the government to do everything, invest it, because that is part of their campaign promises, to invest in electricity.
You say Akeredolu mentioned that.
He did mention that. He did mention that. He did mention that. Now, he mentioned it because he thought he would do it. But along the line, that's where priority comes in. If you put 10 people together now, and you say, which do you prefer? An overhead bridge that costs the government over 5 billion that is already cracking? Or government?
You're saying the bridge is cracking.
Of course, the bridge is cracking. The bridge is cracking. They know that the bridge is cracking. Now, if you ask them, which will you prefer, the bridge or electricity, for the government to invest in electricity? An average person will tell you electricity. And state government cannot. See, I don't need to be mentioning the name of government. I've consulted with government, for government, and I understand their capacity. If any government is serious about anything, they've been talking about it. It's on the exclusive list to go to River State. You see gas turbine that the government invested in for the benefit of its people. There will be arrangement and argument, but that is the reality. Go to Lagos. You will see a power project that the state government invested in. What are we supposed to do? Sit down with these people. You have interviewed them. What are the areas that are making things difficult for them to fix this thing? They will tell you it's the infrastructure, the light infrastructure. Yes. Can we fix it? How much will it cost? 1.3 billion. 1.3 billion.
That's the cost.
That's the cost. 1.3 billion. Without
put everything back in place.
I am telling you, the infrastructure without that's the amount is without political addition. So by the time they add all the embellishment and political additions, let's say, okay, to give us 2 billion. But now we have used 5-something billion to build a bridge, and now the bridge is cracking. The bridge does not even solve the problem it was created to solve. These things, there is God.
Okay. Now, if you were elected on October 10, what will you be doing differently?
First is
from successive government that we've seen in the past.
Yes, first is leadership. Leadership. We want to redirect the concept of leadership from power to people. What we have now is somebody wants...
Okay, you want to take the power back to the people.
Back to the people. Now, that is very important because of where we are now. I enjoyed the first tenure of Governor Olusegun Mimiko, in all honesty.
Why so?
Because those projects were people-oriented. The man seemed to return power to the people. First tenure, 4 years. I saw people who were delivered of babies in the hospitals and all that. And I felt, if we could continue, it started something. If we could continue on this pace, then Ondo State is going to stand up. But again, the issue of power crept in. Because I want to make somebody the governor, or I want to do this, then we lost all that. Now it's even worse now, because apart from even returning power to the people now, power is now resident in a family. Either we want to talk about it or not. Where a situation where the leader of the house wants to be the governor, the assistant leader of the house, the mother wants to be the deputy, the son wants to be the chief, and all that. See, when you return power to the people, it brings sanity to the system. Because now, if we had returned power to the people of Ondo South, we will not be talking about the bridge today. Because that means that in the entire Ondo South, if people, genuine people, not political people, that's why it's the most painful decision I've ever made in my entire life. I made it in 2006. And that is to contest to become governor of Ondo State. Because when you see them, when you see the kind of things that professional politicians are shunning out, you want to tell yourself that you do not want to associate with these people. If we had returned power to the people, will you tell me that's what our party is doing differently? Will you tell me that in the entire Southern Senatorial District, there will not be one reasonable man who will genuinely advise you when you give them the opportunity and say, this bridge you want to build, right now, you are the one shouting all over the television and every place that you are building an industrial hub. We will expand this road. Don't build this kind of bridge, because by the time we expand it, this thing is going to come down. We will have genuine people who will say, sir, this investment you are talking about, why not let's plow so percentage into this area? If you get to Ore today, there are two businesses. I just discovered the second one, laughable. The first one is Okada. The way they ride Okada in Ore is different from every other place. That's why the father Okada got to Kutupa before Ore. Now, it's because of the father. You say you are making that place popular. And a lot of people are trooping in reality. But when they now get there, they are handicapped because of the lack of electricity in the recess of it. So what do? They want to leave. So they take to bike. They start riding bike recklessly everywhere. Is that what we want to do to build our economy?
Have you been to the industrial?
Of course I have.
So what do you make of it?
The impression is insincerity. The impression is insincerity. You see, until
you're saying everything government claims that is there is not there.
You see, until people have the courage to ask people in government, number one, if you say we are building this thing, fine, but what is the percentage of the government there?
Okay.
Have you heard them talk about it? Now, there's what they call KPI. The government does not set KPI for itself, key performance indicators.
Yeah.
That, okay, this is how to measure my success in this area. Now, if there's a KPI, you say, I'm setting up this industrial place, and it will directly take care of so number of people in terms of employment, and by so time. And people can actually go there and verify. In fact, they don't even need to go there. Once they get to the website of the state government, some of this information should be there. Verifiable information. But they do not have. That's where leadership comes in. You see, leadership is not just to say, I will do it.
When you visited the place, what did you see there? That made you conclude that it was done with insincerity.
No, you see, when people begin to hoard information, the best if you have a very good product, you market it so easily.
Yes.
So when you now get there and you are asking question as to, what is the percentage of the state government in this place? How many? And they are chasing you away. They begin to suspect. Then we did a further study to discover that the state government has not actually told the people of the state how much in Naira Kobo it has invested in that place, what that represents in terms of percentage, and how the sources of the investment will be measured in terms of employment, in terms of internally generated revenue. MMM is the mindset of government of Ondo State. More money. And when you want more money, sir, you don't need to put tax burden on the people that are already in poverty. In 2014, the United Nations says that in Africa, for us to solve the problem of poverty, we need to allocate more resources to people living in abject poverty. That's 2014. And in our own interpretation in Nigeria, how to do that is to continue to collect more tax from people that are already in poverty. That is why I go and look at faces of people, even people putting on their cap. Look at their faces. You can tell from the way they are even doing. I was in Oshobo yesterday, and I discovered that majority of the crowd, both of them, the two parties that have done their flag off, majority of them came from other states to create impression. What impression are you creating? It is unfair.
How did you know this?
Because I spoke to them.
To those people?
Directly.
And they told you they came from other states?
In fact, I was on my way back to Akure when one of them got to know that I am contesting. It's an NURTW member, because I spoke with a group of Ondo State indigenes. And he called me and said, Baba Moshe Kuro Lakureni, Mowafun Raleni, bye. These things are unnecessary. And at the end of the day, when they ask you, how much do you have? You don't have the money. There are people that are investing in you because they are looking for what to take that may not necessarily be to the advantage of the Ondo State people. There are people, those that are not investing, you have access to state government fund. No, these things break my heart personally. And oftentimes, I pray and I feel that people should see what I'm saying, so that they can be able to separate the right from the wrong. As we are now, in the area of leadership, we haven't gotten it right. And that's where we started from. You know, you asked me what you would do different. So we're going to priority. Priority is leadership. Sir, the kind of project we want to do, we will never have the money. In reality, what we intend to do, because we have seen life, we have seen how normal people are supposed to lead their life. So what we want to do, we will not have the money. So that's where priority comes in. How do I prioritize this project? To number 2 leg, people, to the advantage of the people. We must put people at the center of leadership purpose. No self, no community. The last one is prosperity. Any project that any government does that does not directly or indirectly translate to the prosperity of the people is a political project. And that is what we see scattered all over the place. When you
what about the roads?
That's where I'm going. When you ask them now, they say, okay, we are building roads. Then come back to priority. First, are you building the road for the people? If yes, what economic benefit will it bring? Or how will it add to the average life expectancy of an average Nigerian?
People will have good roads, they will have easy access to the market for farmers and all of that. For instance, the Okeala-Bujuto road that they've been done, you know what that road used to be.
Of course, I do know. So, of course, you can in a community like us, a government cannot pick one road.
So those roads, you agree with me that they are serving their purpose?
Of course, I may not totally agree with you that they're serving purpose, because we have seen a government that built road 100 and I forgot the number of road that he said, and rain came and was watching those roads away practically like
rain
carpets.
Has not washed these ones away.
That's why we have to wait. Majority of them are in completion stages.
The Baraoke-Ibuchi road, I apply that almost every day, and the road is still as good as when it was constructed.
Okay, I said something that you didn't pay attention to. That any project that does not have a KPI, which must translate to the prosperity of the people.
That's
now
what I paid attention. That's what, I think I have told you that. If government, for instance, the Baraoke, we have people who live in Baraoke every day.
Fantastic.
They go to Ibujima, they go to Baraodo.
Fantastic.
And for commercial drivers as well. For a bad road will make a commercial driver spend more on his vehicle.
That's true.
With a good road, you spend less.
Okay.
That's more money in their pocket.
Fine, fantastic. Now more money into their pocket, because it's only an evil man that will condemn everything. But what I'm saying in essence is that we should not use our 3 years to say, oh, we have built road, and at the end of the day, you are even asking
what areas would you say the government should have focused more, or other areas apart from road construction?
Once you don't get the issue of leadership right, you cannot get anything right.
What do you think is wrong with the Akeredolu leadership?
I think power is at the center of every decision he makes. Who benefits what is determined not by the urgency of the community, but the interest of a certain people. We cannot continue to run a government like that.
What people, or let me say, which people do you think roads like Okeala-Bujuto, the one I've just mentioned, the Baraoke-Ibuchi, whose interest do you think is if not the people?
How many kilometers?
If not the people's interest.
How many
No, we're not talking about kilometers. Okay. I'm taking you off from what you said. Whose interest do those roads serve, other than the interest of the people who live in those communities?
You see, one of the problems that we have in the political circle is that we often allow politicians to push a particular narrative, so that it becomes acceptable.
You're a politician too.
I am telling you that
you're pushing your own narrative. I'm asking you, explain your narrative.
My narrative is very simple.
I'm taking you up on what you say. You said most of these roles are serving the interest of some people, and I've asked, who are these people? My narrative is very simple, and it is this: that you cannot continue to pick 2 projects out of 30 and say because that 2 projects. There was a time the governor himself went on Twitter and said he tarred the road to Yita Jegede's house. I don't know whether so you cannot you cannot take 2 projects and begin to use that 2 projects to score an entire body of projects. But what we are saying in essence is that we are not saying know of the Sharon road.
Yes, we are not saying 1 or 2 of the roads are not good. That's not what we are saying. But we are only concerned about at the end of the day, because an average politician,
quality. You're talking about the quality.
Apart from even the quality, an average politician builds a road because of the next thing he wants to do, and after some times we will see what will become of that road. But again, I am telling you that how will that translate to the prosperity of the people? There are some roads you have mentioned, but priority is what I'm saying. In our own government, there's what we also have project. We have road project. Is the P, we call it pragmatic human capital development. Another it, we have road project. Our idea is very simple. Our idea is we are rebuilding, reconstructing, repairing 700 kilometers of road. And this is how we distributed it. 200 per each of the senatorial district. Then 100 for some peculiar areas. It could be in the south, it could be in the central, and when we are doing this, there's a special focus on our major program in agriculture. That if we build this road from this point to this point, within 2 years, what will it add to the internally generated revenue of the state? Not by taxation, will set a KPI. But when you ask a professional politician, they build it because they want to use it to contest. And that's why majority of the road, immediately after election, will collapse. I am not saying in Ondo State alone, but that's been the practice. That's been the practice.
So are you saying of all the roads that you've seen politicians build, that you've seen governors construct, federal government, you say most of these roads usually collapse?
Most of them. Because every road, if you walk in advanced countries, there are even some buildings you walk into that when you want to enter from the door, you can, for want of word, they call it life expectancy. I don't know what. Yeah. You know that within social period of time, yes, that this thing is going to, every road is supposed to have that.
Yes.
And now, if you paint the picture that you use so amount of money to build a road, for example, the people in their head are thinking that, okay, at least this road should last us for so. It's not as if they have the correct, but they just, with the amount of money. But I just told you an example of where I plan virtually every day. I live in Okitiwukwa.
You come from Okitiwukwa?
No, but that's my base. That's where I live. The bridge is cracking already. It's cracking.
Are you certain of this?
I'm asking you. Yes, I'm certain. They know. Some of their opponents have put it on the social media, so they will not say they have not seen it. So when you compare it's not just about building road. Priority is not about building road.
Okay, because
you ask the question. Let me quickly make this point, sir. You compare the work done with the amount of money expended on it. This is what people are not saying. So I can build road to your place, and you say, oh, this road is fantastic, and everybody goes to church to shout hallelujah. But by the time they know the amount, people hear billions so much that they don't know how big it is. I was in a committee in 2007 to go inspect a project by one agency of the federal government. And when we got there, it was water, sir. We started traveling, and after traveling, they said, this project will cost us 5 billion. That's the day I knew the value of 5 billion. No matter how devalued or how bad the Naira is today, these billions we are mentioning, it's a lot of money. And you just start certain kilometers of road. And that's why when we were growing up, sir, there's a project board that used to be at project site. They tell you this project is by so Ondo State government. This project will start January, end December. This project cost the government so billion of Naira. Do you see that any longer? That's what we're bringing on board, sir.
Now, in spite of the abundant God-given potentials down Ondo State, what do you think? Why do you think Ondo State has not been able to become a business hub? You talk of bitumen, you talk of petroleum, and all of that. Why do you think it has been difficult for the state to become a business hub in the southwest?
You see, because we want to make political point, we leave what we have power over to go fight for what we do not have power over most of the time. Because I'm the one that started it too. No, it's my project too. See, today, because I don't know what people did during the lockdown, but there's a projection by February next year now, there will be serious population explosion.
Yeah.
Now, today as we speak, 1.2 billion people go to bed hungry every day across the world. A serious-minded government, a 21st century government, will think about what do I have power over with the little resources I have so that I can plug into this. You see, in leadership, before I conclude that thought, they say we have many types of leaders. There are some leaders that are in control of events. There are leaders that control. There are leaders that are in control of event. There are leaders that are being controlled by event. It is when something happens that they start. How, as a good leader, you begin to think, how can I plug into this? So if one of the reasons is what I've told you, politics. If we had made reasonable investment into what we have power over, which is agriculture, by now, sir, nobody will travel from Lagos and take the risk of under this heavy kidnapping scenario that we have across the nation and go to the north to go import what we have control over. I have a farm. This is my partner in the project. I have a rice farm. Let's just see how this thing goes. And I discovered that you don't need to even travel long, sir. From Iju, here, you can actually feed sizably the number of people in the southwest using first-class investment in rice. I cannot continue to tell you how many acres of rice that got burnt because of lack of rain. But if government had thought about that, there's a young guy that used to live in Ondo State from Delta State. He's now in Nasarawa. He owns one of the biggest agri cooperatives in Nigeria today. But the government is sleeping. The government is parking one tractor very close to one site along, I don't know which community. They are snapping it that we want to start exploring bitumen. When do you have that power? When? It is insincerity. That is it. Once we, and insincerity in it is my party that can do it, sir. There's no party in Nigeria that can do it alone. Go and write it down. And that's one of the philosophies of our party. There's a young man I met. I was collecting his number. I was telling my colleague, my assistant, that, oh, we need this guy. As we speak now, this guy is an assistant, is a deputy governor candidate of another political party. But when we discussed, and I felt, no, this guy is brilliant. If we win election, once we win election, we bring him on board. There are some people in APC today that have solution to APC problem, but they sideline them because they think it's only a group of people from their own community or locality that have the best of brains. Nigeria, Ondo State cannot grow with that kind of mindset.
Now let's talk about the electoral umpire. Are you satisfied with what you've seen so far?
So far.
And the processes leading up to the election?
Yes, sometimes I even pity them because they are all victims, including us, including the police, of the political class. Sometimes I just look at them and pity them. If you have, I have worked, and I'm privileged to start work very early. I started working at the age of 20. So I have a clear understanding of what I have worked with multinationals. And the difference between my attitude sometimes may be, I'm not saying all the time, may be as a result of the attitude of the organization towards me. Sometimes you get to, I worked in a company where everybody complains that, oh, when they get to the convenience, that tissue always gets missing. And they come back to abuse everybody, NG tissue. Now I moved to another organization, and that same thing happens. And the mindset of the organization, they believe that none of their staff can steal tissue. So it's a product of their mindset, and they believe, oh, we need to increase the number of tissue we bring. So they don't come to accuse anybody whether you stole. That is the mindset of your employer. We have problem with our employer as Nigeria. And that's why you see a policeman is misbehaving, and you think the problem is totally his. The problem is not totally his, because when he sees you, he's also seeing you as being part of the problem that he is going through. He sees you because you are riding in your car. He felt that perhaps he didn't know you had a head of news here. Perhaps he's thinking that then he wants to pour that anger on you. That is why I see INEC. Most of the things they do wrong is as a product of the pressure of the political class. So our attention, as we are expecting them, we can only expect that they will come out well. But we must continue to talk to professional politicians. They are the problem of the nation. Those who don't have, they don't have a place they want to return to. They want to get, for example, you do a project of 10 billion and you call it 20 billion. Where do you want to take the money to? Where do you want to? So the problem is not, for now, I am satisfied with them. But anytime I see them, because we met with them on Saturday, or the governorship candidate, and I look at them and I seriously pity them, because these are wives, these are fathers, these are children of other people that are in that situation that they could, most of the time, they can't help themselves. I don't know whether you have ever heard the scenario where somebody will say, Moti receive call at okay, I receive a call from somewhere. And how many Nigerians, except a few people like us, who can actually turn from an organization and say, I am not working with you again, and resign? We don't have that mindset from childhood. So instead of wanting to go, they would rather bow to the pressure of the organization. That is also a mistake of the society, because the society has taught you from the very beginning that once you go to school, you must end your life in the civil service. So you have that mindset, you get a job in the civil service, and somebody wants you to resign because of Nigeria that is not even encouraging you to do the right thing. This is the problem. So we can only hope and expect that many of them will hear us out, because I speak to some point and I weep for the nation. At this level where I am, I thank God daily that God gave me the grace and people accepted me to come this far. Because now the way I'm seeing Nigeria is different from even the way I'm seeing it when I started. When I started, I wanted to just fix things that are fixable. But now I am seeing that it is a revolution that we need, from the mind to project, to believability, to making people. We don't need, we need a leader that will stand on the podium and will be able to instill some inspiration in the life of his people. What we have now is surge in the number of crime. Not totally as a result of the fact that those guys don't have home training, but again, when they leave the home, who trains them? The school has rejected them, because now what we used to have when we were growing up, we were afraid because our brothers have gone to school, they are not seeing job. But now that has changed. Now you cannot even get that admission in Ondo State. You cannot. That's another level. And sometimes you think that some of these things are deliberate to keep some set of people perpetually in power. But the most painful aspect of it is that we, at the end of the day, we will still be the victim, because they will still come to us, sweet talk us, and give us 2,000 on the day of election. One of the reasons why people keep collecting money on the day of election is a deliberate act, and they don't know. It is a planned act from the very beginning. How does it happen? You pay civil servant. There was a particular state that is very close to us. They didn't pay civil servant for so long a time. But now another government came, and the governor promised on the day of inauguration that it will be, it's not my party, it's an APC person. That the government came on board and says, oh, I will be paying salary. Since he came on board, I'm not sure he has owed any salary. He has been paying. Then you ask yourself, I brought the paper together. Nothing has changed significantly in what this other person was receiving before he left. But that's to tell you that most of these acts are deliberate. What they do is that some month before election, they keep people in ground base of poverty, perpetual poverty. They don't pay their salary. They don't release what they are supposed to release. They burden them with tax. So that once they do that for 2-3 months, on the day of election, they release the money. And you see 2,000. Because of the hunger of the poor and whatever you are going through, you take the 2,000, you spend another 4 years. So here, our own, for the Young Progressives Party, we are new. We are thinking anew. We are not people who will come out and promise that this is what they want to do, and you will not be able to hold them. They don't put their promises on paper. Even President Muhammadu Buhari at a point said, I didn't promise you all these things. They don't put it on paper so that you will not be able to hold them. But we are the first party that did that. We put it on paper. This is what, and we are also telling the people the KPI with which they will be able to measure us at the end of the day. So that when we do 4 years, and we are not a party that will say, it's a philosophy of our party. We are not saying, we have done 4 years. We must do 8 years. We must do 16 years. That's witchcraft. That's witchcraft.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Dotun Ojon, governorship candidate of the Young Progressives Party in Ondo State in the October 10 governorship election. Thank you very much for coming on the Roundtable this afternoon.
It's a pleasure.
My name is Dimeji Danes, and this is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of the program. Good afternoon.
Politics is a good thing, but with the attendant intricacies and the many sound bites, it gets confusing.
As the government of this time around, they are deceiving us.
At Adaba 88.9 FM, it is our job to sift through the noise, helping you make sense of it all. This is why we welcome you to our world, where we help make politicians accountable to you.